Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We're excited to have our friend Dave Nordel joining us here once again. Yes, he's back live on the podcast and on the Zoomcast to talk more about the work he does at MaxFab Consulting and, of course, how we can help you. Welcome back, Dave. Please introduce yourself to our listeners today.
Hey, thanks, Jill. Hey, Dave Nordel. And if you haven't heard me the last time, I'm a 30-year retired military veteran out here, running my own company with a large focus on helping my brothers and sisters transition from the military to a civilian world. For those of you that don't know, I mean, that's a fairly dynamic thing. And so we've developed some things here that are really exciting, and they've really gotten some momentum, and we're working with some chambers of commerce and some business and even the ecumenical community to go into places and educate employers on how to bring veterans on, how to mine all of that really cool stuff that we come with, the leadership and the ability to work hard problems in organizations and to bring all of that with us. And then the other things that we come, the challenges of transition, that can be anything from mental health, just to needing that camaraderie and that sense of purpose that we had every single day. Being able to build environments for us to work in makes companies stronger, actually helps their bottom line. And as I was talking to somebody the other day that's going to have us come and help them out, it's half of a full FTE when you lose an employee. So if you pay somebody $100,000 a year and you lose them in the first year, it costs you $50,000 to replace them. My stuff, I shouldn't say my stuff, but our stuff here at MaxFab is what bridges that gap, what keeps them on after a year or 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and it starts to save you money on the back end. So it's a tremendous thing, but the focus is providing an environment for veterans that are mentally and spiritually and physically happy and healthy, so that we can continue to contribute and give back like we had when we served.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, could you just tell us a little bit about, for those that don't know about your background, when you served and what you did, please?
Sure. In 1984, I went in the United States Air Force. I became a medic. I'm a registered nurse, and I do shock trauma. My graduate education and my passion on top of all that is emergency and disaster management. So I'm the guy that tells you which way to drive when the hurricane's coming. And obviously, I filled a lot of senior leader positions over my 30-year career. So that's kind of me. Married, couple kids. I'm living in Montana now, which is great for a variety of reasons. One is that Montana per capita has either the number one, or we're either number one or number two in the nation. Montana and Alaska, kind of back and forth. So it's this is mission next. I've written a couple of books, and the first one's called Giving Back, and it's life and leadership from the farm to the combat zone and beyond. And so that's where we're sitting. Yeah.
Beautiful. And now you're giving back and you're helping so many. Let's talk about specifically the work that you're doing. And by the way, how do we contact you?
Sure. www.maxfabconsulting.com. So that's www.maxfab consulting.com. And you can look up the story as to why it's MaxFab, because it's directly related to combat time and my combat tours and some organizational, attitudinal things that help us thrive. So if you go there, you can find the books, you can find my blogs, you can find these. These are all stored away in podcasts, not just ours, but others. And then how to get a hold of me, how to book a free consult. It's all on there. Just work with us and send it out, and we can jump on and talk more about it. But yeah, so more in depth about what we do. We bring a program to an organization, and it starts off with explaining veteran culture, kind of how a veteran's made, from the time they go to basic training or however they end up coming under the military. Explains kind of how we're programmed while we're in, and then some of the nuances of transition. So some of the challenges that we come with, especially kind of the needs that we have based on how we were, previously programmed, how to build that environment through HR processes and through just leadership and cultural and cultural awareness, to build that social capital, that social income into your institution, that not only gives veterans a chance to use all the good stuff that we do, but it also gives us the ability to integrate into an environment that we want to stay in. and it helps us, grow and thrive beyond our service time. So it's pretty exciting. Did you leave me? I can't hear you, but I can keep going. So while you, do the shuffle there with the IT stuff,
Hello.
it's great. Yeah,
No, my
you're good.
camera's been out, but not the mic. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
apologize. It's
no,
probably
it's okay.
I had double groin hernia surgery a few days ago, so I have a
Right.
pillow on my lap to hold the pressure. So
Okay.
my pillow. I apologize. Hit the button. Sorry about that.
No, it's great. It's great. I'm sure there's
but the camera, I don't know. That just happens miraculously. I'm sorry.
I'm sure there's an edit button in here somewhere. So, but yeah, I mean, that's what we do. It's compassion and empathy based. It requires somebody of my experience and expertise to facilitate it. There's a lot of me out there, believe it or not. One of the statistics that I kind of garnered yesterday through some research is that by next year, by 2024, there will be over 424,000 female veterans. That's an amazing number if you think about who served, and our programs, have the slices and the pieces to address even not just the veteran environment, but the female veteran environment in that experience, because there's a dynamic there too. So it's really cool.
Awesome. It's fab. It's Max
Fab.
Fab.
It is Max Fab.
How did you come up with that name, by the way?
Okay, so this is a whole keynote speech, and I'll try to do it in 60 seconds.
Okay.
When I was going to Iraq, I was going to lead an organization of about 235 medics that were doing combat trauma medicine for the whole of the country, for the whole theater. Very dynamic place. And when you're going to a place like that, when you haven't been together with those people, because we all came from different parts of the world, we haven't been together with those people, you kind of have to find some foundation. And so when you're a senior leader in an organization, one of the most important questions you might hear in a day is, how are you doing? So in my world, it was, Chief, how are you doing today? Innocuous, right? I can say good and go about things. My answer to that was always, I'm maximum fabulous. And people would say, what in the world is that? They just kind of roll their eyes. And I said, listen, that is the highest of the hierarchy of attitude. And if you're not there, but you're always trying to get there, then you'll keep yourself in a place that keeps you safe emotionally and mentally and physically, because you're making sure that other people are getting the max fab. And when you're in that type of situation. So if you look behind me on the screen, there's a flag back there, and on the bottom of that flag, it says maximum fabulous.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, your head's covering it. Okay.
And that flag is the flag that flew over the trauma center in Iraq for my entire time there. And my people pulled that down and actually embroidered that on the flag. So that's a piece of history.
Did I tell you I've been to Iraq?
Have you?
Yeah. 2010 and 2009, I think it was. I went to Camp Al Assad and Camp Cupcake. What was
Al Udeid.
Yes, thank you. Yes, with the news station I work for, we were doing not like reporting of the front lines, but we were bringing them the soldiers the holiday cheer for the holidays. We went over there twice, so we'd spend like a week and a half for the holiday, connecting them live via satellite with their families in like the New York area. It was amazing, but I got to see a little bit of, my goodness, wow. But I mean, amazing what you all have done. And yeah, it was just an experience of a lifetime to be a civilian going over there. Sure. And yeah, so wow, I commend you on that. No, please. I got to experience it and just to see it, but I'm glad I could make some people smile, right?
Yeah, those visits are really important, actually. So thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Please, you're the one who were there. My goodness, you did most of the work, and you continue to do that work to help all these veterans do these other jobs. And could you share some of the main industries that you find our veterans able to work in? Who is like the most accepting? What type of industry is?
Interesting that you would say
I always thought it was automotive, but I don't know.
No, people, I think, we really need to work on what the perception of the veteran is. So let me give you an example. The United States Air Force has their own community college. And when you join the Air Force, you're enrolled in that community college. And when you graduate basic training, you're 5 classes away from an associate's degree.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, but most people picture the veteran as what we see on TV, right?
Yeah.
A lot of dirt, a lot of foxholes, a lot of rifles, a lot of kicking in doors and finding bad guys. And actually, those people that do that, they are degree earning people too. And by the way, they're high strategic thought people, they're planners and those type of things. Veterans, even though you worked on a tank crew or you were a mortar guy or those type of things, veterans come with such diverse skills and training that they fit into a lot of industries, and that's part of what we do is to open up those blind spots. But I'll give you two big companies that are really good with veterans. If you look at their programs,
Okay.
JP Morgan and Deloitte, they have got really solid programs that they understand when they're hiring veterans how to hire them, and when they get them, they understand how to keep that environment that I talked about. So that's good. There's some good examples in there. Where I'm working now, everything from construction to churches to city government to organizations that have a high preponderance of veterans because what they
Okay.
do, like flying helicopters. If you fly
Yep.
helicopters, civilian helicopters, you're going to need the military training because the helicopters are the same. So mechanics and those kind of people transition. Healthcare is huge. I came out of healthcare. Healthcare is huge. Our training in the military for healthcare is the same as it is in the civilian side, and that transition is awesome. And you know what, healthcare as a whole, civilian healthcare as a whole, can use what I'm offering probably sooner than later, because the job market is getting competitive, and we have holes in healthcare, especially in nursing. And these type of things help, because when an organization becomes vet ready and they have that designation of vet readiness, and they've done the
Yep.
program and they have the training, vets will navigate, will move towards those organizations just based on the fact that they already can see where there's an environment and it has a little bit of the culture that they need to reassimilate.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And do you want to share some of the success stories from MaxFab and the people that you're helping? It's got to feel good, to do this, to help so many. And you dedicate your life to doing this. Do you still work at all in the EMT field, or are you just curious?
Right. Well, no, I still do disaster management, but I mean, this is the passion, and some of this is very slow moving when you want to work on culture. So you have to develop things that are digestible for a wide variety of entrepreneurs and business people. You have to, it has to be there. If you're in business, there's a financial component. And as much as that can feel yucky when you're trying to do this kind of work, you have to tie it to that. And I did earlier
Yeah.
with some numbers. But I'll give you one quick success story that I think is great. So I'm talking to a church, and I said, I know that there's a place for vet readiness
Mhm.
in your church, because when people go to church, any type of congregation, doesn't have to be a church, but
Yeah.
this happens to be a church. When people go to church, they come from all walks of life, right? And they're in the church. And I finally got them to do a math problem, and they did a back of an envelope math problem, and they said, we probably have over 120 veterans in our
Wow.
church. But yet, if you think about church groups, they have Sunday school for kids, they have wives groups, they have men's group, no veterans group, no place to build this community. And then out of that, there's business owners in there that can not only learn it in the church, but then take it to their business, and then it starts to propagate. And really, Jill, the dark side of this, and it's an important side. I don't like to overemphasize it because we like to stay positive about what we're doing. But our nation loses up to and maybe more than 44 veterans a day to suicide. And a big when you look back and say why, a big thing is about veterans having purpose. And if a veteran loses their purpose, because when you get up in every day when you're in uniform, you know exactly what your purpose is. And I think you've probably seen that if you went to Iraq and around the soldier, sailor, airmen, and Marines. When you lose your sense of purpose, you lose your equilibrium, and that can just lead to hope or no hope, and that can be a slippery slope. Well, think about when especially men, but think about what you identify with, and a lot of it is our work. I mean, we have passion for our work, and we identify with our work. We ask people when we meet them for the first time, what do you do? It's one of the first questions that we ask.
Hmm.
And so veterans deserve and need environments where they feel that they have purpose. And so that's a huge thing. So yeah, that's just one example. We're gonna, working with city government's amazing because they have high turnover rates and they have a need for veterans, and they just don't know how to they don't know how to either make their holes square for the square peg or make the peg round to fit in to change things. And so there has to be a little bit of a facilitator, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, I love it. Well, it's amazing the work you're doing. And by the way, you're helping veterans in how many different states?
Right now, we want to co-opt this, but right now I really need to focus on Montana
Okay.
because some of those numbers that I gave you, some of
Okay.
the suicide numbers and substance abuse and mental health needs, unfortunately, Montana per capita is number one or number two in the nation, and
Okay.
for mental health, we're 44th in services. So we all know that on a bad day in our nation, public-private partnership is important. So we need to work those two things together, local government all the way up to our federal
Hmm.
representatives. We need to work that piece to have better awareness and to put the resources towards the right things to get the most bang for the buck, which I think Vet Ready does for sure. And the other thing is programs like this need to have a grassroots base. And so why not do it here, right? Why not, build out the base? Now, with that said, if you want to talk about other states, I have someone in New Jersey that's ready to go. I have somebody that's in Indiana that's ready to go. I have somebody that's in Arizona that's ready to go. I have two people in Texas, North Carolina, Florida. So they're ready to go, but we just need
Yeah.
to grow it the right way. And because sometimes if you get too big too fast when you're working on culture, you can screw it up, and I don't want to do that.
Oh, good. Dave Nordell here still joining us. Remind us of all the ways we can contact you, and then let's continue the show.
Right. www.maxfabconsulting.com. That's MAXFAB consulting.com. And I appreciate you asking about the story.
No, it's always good to hear. Come on. It's
Yeah.
exciting to have you here. Someone is doing so much. And I'm just curious, what are you sipping on? Is that tea, coffee, water? What do you got?
You know what it is? Cinnamon tea.
The fall is here. I can't wait to try cinnamon and pumpkin spice.
Yeah, and it's just, I drink it year round because it's just good for metabolism and keeps the mind clear. So
Does it keep you hot? Is it like,
it does. Today, we say people that haven't been to Montana think we wear a snowmobile suit 365 days a year, and it gets to be 110 degrees here. So we have just transitioned, and today it looks like a nice day in England. Clouds are low, and it's just drizzly rain, and it's about, I don't know, 60 degrees. So yeah.
ooh, kind of fall feeling?
Yeah, yeah, and you can smell it. And the leaves are turning, and they're selling pumpkins at the stores, so I guess
Oh
it's
my
on.
gosh, awesome. And you also work with groups, team building, corporations,
Sure, absolutely,
motivational speaking. There's so much more to
absolutely.
Max Fab. Do
Yeah,
you want to touch upon any of those?
all of that. Yeah, like I said, there's a Max Fab keynote speech. I talk a lot about
Mhm.
um, cultural closure. The keynote that goes along with that's the 25-yard gap, and it works around the dynamic of the length of a military barracks is about 25 yards. And you can't get to know anybody or lead anybody in a barracks unless you cover that 25 yards. And if you look at our society as a whole, we have a lot of people that are standing those scary 25 yards apart, and they make assumptions about the other people at the end of that. And because of
Mhm.
the fear and pain that
Yeah.
is in this figurative 25 yards,
Yeah.
we don't travel it to talk. And anytime that we make assumptions, especially about other people, we're going to be 100% wrong. And that drives emotion. And so I work with people to learn how to close that distance, learn how to build understanding and empathy. You don't have to be in agreement. In fact,
Yeah.
you don't even have to bless things. You don't have to be in agreement, but it does build an environment where you can have enough respect for somebody that you can coexist and give people the space they need to be who they are. And when that happens, organizations just grow and thrive and explode. But if you have two different versions of water cooler talk, that can be unhealthy. So we don't want toxic organizations, and we want people to perform better.
Oh, of course we do. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. And any other, mention that you want to make from clients of the people you've helped? I mean, they got to be grateful, thankful, and do they give back? And are they still part of you? Like, how does that work?
Well, people follow us. It's kind of amazing. It's a trickle effect. I was just working on an email to a lady this morning that said, hey, we heard that you guys, I work in a cohort called the Apex Leadership Institute that does some of the same stuff, that's really focused on this developmental thing from the brand new leader all the way to continuing to develop executive leaders. And she wrote and she said, I hear you guys have speakers. What can you speak about? And I had a really awesome time because I said, well, what's kind of your genre? And it's for a conference, and it's healthcare, and their whole conference is geared around going from surviving to thriving. And if you understand the dynamic of what's going on in COVID, right? Post COVID, financially strained hospitals, it really kind of reinvented them, and they're in this transition state. And so they want us to come and to intervene at a level to help them. So that's a whole hospital system. That's just not one hospital. So that actually covers Montana. So yeah, that's one example. We've got one of the first two. This year we have 2 medical schools that opened up in Montana, and previous to that we had no medical schools. And actually, the medical school is like right next to me. I can walk from the house to there. And we just finished the big to-do for them to help them develop, because when you build a medical school, you're going to get really diverse really quick, because of the medical students come from all over the world. And so we work on that too. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. We still have 4 minutes left in our show here
Hmm.
as Dave sips away on the cinnamon. I'm working the water. That's about it right now, but I could use some of that cinnamon stuff.
Yeah, right. Is that how you're feeling today?
Well, yeah, because I had this double groin hernia surgery like four days ago. So
Right.
I'm sitting here at my pillow, holding my stomach tight and drinking lots of fluid, they say.
Taking one for the team today. That's right.
Exactly, but it's okay. I feel all right. It's just a little sore,
You know
right? We
what?
get through. You're a medic. You should know.
You're healing. You're healing, right? You're going in the right direction. And that's all,
Yeah.
and that's all we want. Yeah, you got to move forward. Yeah, I also have a podcast. In fact, it's talking about the right direction. If you look behind me, you see the kangaroo. I call it
Yes,
the kangaroo.
tell us.
I call it the Kangaroo Leadership Podcast. And the reason that I picked a kangaroo is that kangaroos physically can only move forward. And so they have to demonstrate leadership traits that are pretty dynamic. One is courage, and one is vision and strategic thought. And you have to have a little bit of empathy, and you really need to understand pace and transferability of your environment. So I always started off with, you're only allowed on the podcast if you demonstrate these traits. And so, locally, we go through some pretty dynamic leaders and present them to the public with their stories. And it's amazing that when you do a podcast, even if you mine, as you know, because you're on the receiving end of this, even if you mine a lot of things from people through a conversation on a podcast, they're going to say something you didn't know that is really profound. And I just find that that's wonderful. And we were talking work-life balance the other day, and the lady on the podcast was telling me that she was in a bad work environment, and she needed to leave, and she needed to leave the culture, and needed to leave her boss. And when she left, she didn't have a job. And she goes, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that. And she was home for a couple of weeks, and she was working on projects, and her 11-year-old daughter walked up to her and said, and her 11-year-old says, Mom, I know you don't have a job, but you yell at me less and I like you more. And I found that super profound on work-life balance and how we need to be aware of that, because it's so important.
Oh my goodness. That's great. Oh, awesome. And where can we find the podcast, when and where?
The podcast is on Spotify. And if you look it up, it's the Kangaroo Leadership Podcast by Dave Nordel. I think we're probably maybe 7 episodes strong. I'm having a lady on named Dallas, who's a female veteran who went to Iraq in 2003 at 19 years old and journaled her whole entire military journey and has now written a book, and it's just really powerful stuff. And her and I were in a civilian Chamber of Commerce get together for veteran issues, and she had everybody in tears by the time she was finished talking. So pretty powerful.
My goodness.
So I'm excited about doing that one.
Aw, wonderful. Well, thank you for that. Remind us how we could reach you again, please.
Okay, yeah, www.maxfabconsulting.com, MAXFAB consulting.com. And please just reach out to me. Click on the calendar, pick a spot, hit send, and even if I don't know you, we'll jump on. We can have this kind of conversation for 15 minutes or an hour, and it's all free.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic
Yeah.
day. To all of our
Yeah.
listeners, stay tuned. More of the show's coming right up. Don't go anywhere. Thanks again, Dave. Enjoy your day.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.